What are the ways you can have a stage play produced?
Well, if you do it the way I do it, is you pay for it yourself. No, for the most part, I've always, they always say don't invest in your own shows. I've always invested in my own shows because I can't ask you for your money if I'm not going to put mine in. I just won't do it. The first way I produced was in the first off-Broadway show I did was Drop Dead. And I raised the money for that out of a fluke. A guy, we had done the show Drop Dead at this theater that was our home base called the Dam Site. And a guy came up to me after the show and he said, if you're taking this to New York, I'm going to write you a check. I said, oh, we are taking it to New York. and he gave me a big check. And I said, okay, now I just have to go get the rest. So I started with my parents' friends, and then I raised, and I look back and I was like, this is insane, because I know how hard it is to raise money now. I raised enough for an off-Broadway show in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
To people that, you have a friend? Great, I'll talk to him, boom. And we put that whole thing together. I did a 6-week run of the show, and that's all I had mapped out in my head because I had always done 6-week runs of our other shows down in the regional theater. And and at the end of the 6 weeks, I gave everybody their money back and we went home. And it didn't dawn on me until maybe 2 years later, I could have kept this running. We were a hit in New York. It was successful. We just closed it because I only planned for 6 weeks. I think if you have a new show, to answer your question directly, you do a 99-seater. Go put it on there. It doesn't cost much and people can see it. And if it's really worth your while after you get reviewed and all that sort of thing, people will find you. That's one way to do it. Second way is when you were making TV money, which is what I was doing for a lot of our shows, I would just go pay for the show. I'd like some of that money back now, but I did a couple off-Broadway shows with a check, and there are also theaters, I can't even think of the name right now, but there are theaters in Florida and there's theaters in Chicago that you can submit your plays to, and if you get them done there and you get it's all about the critics and how is the box office. If you can sell the show, if you get held over, suddenly you're going to get published with was Samuel French, now it's Concord Theatrical. They'll find you because nobody wants to work anymore as far as I'm concerned. They want to find a success and they be part of it. Nobody wants to take a chance. The easiest way to raise money is you go to a financial advisor person and find people who want to just throw money away for tax reasons. Grab their money, put it into a show. And I also am a firm believer in doing it yourself. I think you do everything yourself. No one's going to come knocking on your door and ask you to, I hear you have a play. Nobody's ever going to do that. Go produce it yourself. You can do it cheap at these 99-seaters. You do enough of those things and you have a reputation. You get name actors to guest star in those shows. If you're doing a 99-seat show, you're probably only doing it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday anyway. So get your connections together to find a celebrity name to be in the show. Not the ideal way to do a show, but that helps. And eventually, once you get a body of work, there's no telling what can happen from there. I was very lucky in that we wrote comedy plays for a living, and that was a living. I made great money doing that. Forget the TV stuff. I made good money on royalties from comedy plays, and looking back, it's like, who knew you could do that? Mostly you hear, I go into the theater and I have to work another job because I can't pay for anything. We made a living because we tapped into something which was not being done at the time. We started at the height of dinner theater. So if it had some sort of sex name in the title, it usually sold out. Your title is very important, by the way. And once we got the first show published and the second show, well, I think by the third show, we were actually making a living as playwrights. And the acting career, you know, aside from us acting in our plays, the acting career just took sat on a shelf.
And so now if someone wanted to, let's suppose I have no experience as a playwright, but I have this idea, I would then approach a 99-cent theater and I would almost rent it for like a month or whatever, so I pay the box office.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can get people to pay for it if you don't have the money, but you find somebody, you know, find your parents or find, you know, whatever. And then the 99-seater, and a lot of them are just, you do, I think most of them are 6-week runs. So, and you can always have different casts and all that stuff, that sort of thing. But yeah, do it that way. I think there's really no formula to it, but I think that's one of the easier ways to do it.
Do they allow you to have rehearsals there, or no, that's a separate cost?
You're renting that too. You're renting for that.
Okay. So that's on top of renting it for the audience?
Yes, and you would probably rent a rehearsal space, or, you know, if somebody you know has a conference room, there's your rehearsal space. You know, somebody has a house with a big garage, there's your rehearsal space. You don't have to, you know, there's ways to save money. Yeah, once you put it up, you're paying for like the tech rehearsal and the dress rehearsal, and then the weekends you're doing the show. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
And then where are you getting costumes? Thrift stores, costume rental places? Okay.
Yep.
And props, same thing. You could
Props
go.
would be whatever I have in the garage that I need. It's what you get. You know, that's how you start doing this stuff.
Sure.
And yeah.
And most importantly, sorry, the actors. How are you paying them?
Well, if you're doing a show out here I think for equity, you're only getting like $5-10 a night for, you know, as long as it's under 99 seats.
Okay.
You know.
And so do you pay actors also for rehearsals or no?
I think so.
Okay.
I know we did way back. We did one show out here. Which one was it? But yeah, you pay, but you're basically paying gas money.
Wow, so even you could make more as an extra. It sounds like non-union extra work, and you get fed pretty well.
And the other bad part is when you're producing a show out here in those kind of theaters is you're already, you know, you got a 6-week run, and after the second week somebody says, I have a TV pilot, I have to leave. You got to replace them, you know. So
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Here is a complimentary question from our book Story Questions.